Since 2017, the Italian Wine Podcast has exploded and expects to hit 6 million listens by the end of July 2023. We're celebrating this success by recognizing those who have shared the journey with us and giving them the opportunity to contribute to the ongoing success of the shows. By buying a paper copy of the Italian Wine Unplugged 2.0 or making a donation to help the ongoing running costs, members of the international Italian wine community will be given the chance to nominate future guests and even enter a prize draw to have lunch with Stevie Kim and Professor Attilio Scienza. To find out more, visit us at italianwinepodcast.com. Chin chin! Welcome to this special Italian Wine Podcast broadcast. This episode is a recording off Clubhouse, the popular drop-in audio chat. This Clubhouse session was taken from the Wine Business Club and Italian Wine Club. Listen in as wine lovers and experts alike engage in some great conversation on a range of topics in wine. If you enjoy listening, please consider donating through italianwinepodcast.com. Any amount helps cover equipment, production, and publication costs. And remember to subscribe and rate our show wherever you tune in.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Clubhouse Ambassadors Corner. So today is our last stretch for our summer marathon before the summer break. So we've got Josje Van Oostrom. Hello. Hi, Josje. Don't forget to unmute.
Yes. Hi there. Ciao a tutti.
How's it going? How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. How are you?
All good here. Looking forward for summer. I guess everybody in the office too. So right now we've got Heydi Bonanini, so he's also here. He just arrived from the vineyards and then just arrived home to just have this stable internet connection, just what we need for the Clubhouse session. All right, so before I begin, I'm just happy to say that our Clubhouse Ambassadors Corner is one of the favorite shows on Italian Wine Podcast. So this show is going to be recorded and it'll be up sometime in this month, August, for Italian Wine Podcast listeners. So Josje is our Italian wine ambassador and Italian wine scholar. She's an Italian sommelier with eyes specialized in organic, biodynamic, and especially natural wines, offering consulting, education, tasting, scouting tours, and events since 2007 for both the Dutch market and internationally. Her company was first called Profondo Reizen, and now she renamed it as Divino Natura. She has a love for Italy ever since 1987. That was very, very long ago. And actually, you're very fluent with Italian. I'm really impressed when I met you back in Via. And that explains perhaps. So she's into Italian wine since 1994 and on a mission to discover all the grape varieties ever since.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, it's a big mission, but
yes, eventually.
I'm progressing.
Oh, anyway, so I'll continue on. I'll go through some of the important parts. She lived in Rome and she studied and lived in Florence and later on in Liguria. Is there where you met Heydi in Liguria when you went there? Oh, yes. Okay. And then she toured every main wine region in 2014-2016. And she lived in Liguria till March 2019 and went back to the Netherlands. And she organized the first Italian natural wine fair in Utrecht in August 2019. So you've got a very long biography here, but I'm not going to take up your time for the interview with Heydi. So yeah, tell us first, why did you select Heydi Bonanini as your favorite producer?
Well, first, it's really hard for me to choose a favorite producer since I know so many. And like the question, what's your favorite wine or grape? I don't have one. I mean, there are lots. But since I lived in Liguria, and it's very dear and special to my heart, and especially the area where Heydi lives and works, I feel like he's a big example in so many ways. I almost get emotional now because he does so much for the territory, for recovering grapes that were lost, recovering the land, rebuilding the dry stone walls. The list is very long and it's so impressive. And when you come there, it's like you can't grasp until you are actually there, how steep the slopes are, everything. And then he makes wonderful wines in very different ones, also from the famous Chaquetra to, of course, the whites and the Vino Bianco, Cinque Terre, and many more. Also, some even more rare reds, Passito, and wines made in amphora. So he's about tradition, reviving tradition, but also experimenting with different styles of wood, different styles of amphora. And then he has this big heart and takes on a migrant, Mustafa, who teach how to work in the vineyard, how to build the dry stone walls, how to make wine. And now this has this whole project, Vino Migrante, where they are recuperating old vines and making a chaquetra out of it and teaching new migrants how to do this work. And the list goes on and on. So that's why.
That's really emotional and sincere. And I suppose that Heydi is a very inspiring winemaker. Thank you for sharing, yes, Heydi, with us. And what are the learning objectives that we should expect from the interview?
Well, of course, there is this theme called heroic winemaking. I know Heydi doesn't like to be called heroic, but if there is anyone that is truly heroic in the way he makes wine, but not only, then for me, it's him. But also, Chaquetra, people have read about it, have heard about it, but we'll get into it and the difficulty of winemaking there, the forgotten grape varieties that he has recovered. So we're talking really geeky stuff here, wines made in amphora and the differences, etc.
Okay, looking forward. And I'm sure our Italian wine ambassadors here are also looking forward to it. And so last question is, how did you discover the wines of La Posa?
I was actually thinking about that because when I first toured around in Italy and I visited the Cinque Terre, he was not yet on my list because he didn't show up. I even had a book about Cinque Terre winemakers, but he was not in there. So I only discovered him when I actually lived there and started visiting him on various occasions. I helped once with the harvesting, which was awesome. So we met on many wine fairs.
Okay, so right now I'm going to mute myself and I will leave the floor to you. And yeah.
So, I have to introduce Heydi a little bit more, but I think I already did some in the first introduction why I chose him as a favorite winemaker. I have some teams myself, like old vines, recuperated vines. I'm really, in awe of those winemakers that try to do that. And Heydi is definitely one of them. And then there's this thing with rare grape varieties, and they don't get much rarer than the list that Heydi has. He cultivates about 19 different ones. Well, we all know Bosco because it's in the DSC. And in our book, Albarola, of course, and Vermentino, but who knows, Rossese Bianco, Rossese Rosso, Picabon, Caniolo is more well-known in Tuscany. Bonamico, he makes a nice red with a combination, also rosé. And then there is Regina Bianca. Well, I never even heard of that one. Barbarossa, Galletta Bianca. Well, there's many truly rare varieties going on here. So Heydi started winemaking when he was 16, 2004. From the start, he made what he calls vini puliti, would say clean wines, no chemicals used in the vineyard and in the cellar, which is not easy anyway, but especially in the area where he is working. He is in Rio Maggiore, to be exact, in the Cinque Terre, in the province of La Spezia, in the region of Liguria, as we already said. The rebuilding of those dry stone walls, that's really a thing. I think he has more than 2 kilometers, and it's an amazing task. I actually went to see some people that did they showed how to do it, so I got an idea. He won the prize Slow Wine, named him Sustainable Viticulture of the Year 2023, and Wine Mag named him Best Winery of Northern Italy also for this year. year. Then there's lots of medals going on, from Vini Extremi to the Concours Mondial in Brussels. He right now has about 5 hectares. 4 of them are in the Cinque Terre. His winery is called La Possa, and that's like 2.5 hectares, which are close to Rio Maggiore, where he lives, and where he also has a cellar. And the vines really go from all the way down to the sea until 150 meters in that vineyard. And it's super, super steep. Heydi will tell us later on how steep exactly, but it's kind of scary if you're afraid of heights, which I am actually. And then he has lots of different parcels of old recuperated vines all over the area. And then there is one other hectare that's like divided outside Cinque Terre, like the island Palmaria, which is in the Gulf of the Poets. So he goes by boat to actually harvest those grapes and take them back to the cellar, which is like an amazing sight. And then there are some other parcels in Levanto, Bonassola, and Santa Maria Ligure, so more up north a little bit. The wines, there are like lots of them. He produces about 25,000 bottles now. He is nowadays working full-time in the vineyard and in the cellar, and also has Mustafa working alongside with him. Obviously, he's most famous for the Chacatra, and he has like, let's say, a classic Chacatra, which is already rare in itself, and it's like about 1,800 bottles. And then he does like the same thing, but then in amphora, and that's about 800 bottles. And then he does another one from even more rare grapes, the red grapes that I talked about before. That's 400 bottles. So we're talking like 2 little gems that are only for the happy few. And then there's even a white Passito from the Regina and Moscato grape. Of course, he has the DOP Cinque Terre Bianco. Then we're talking a little bit more serious numbers for bigger markets, 8,000 bottles, more or less the same wine, also made in amphora, about 1,000 bottles, 940 to be exact. Then he has a white from only Albarola grapes, which is interesting, obviously, to grasp that grape a little better, 4,000 bottles. And then there are some other whites, Trebbiano, Vermentino, and Albarola. And then there's also the Vin dai Vecchi Bianco. So, yeah, the wine of the older people, like old style, macerated on the skins and on the skins of the Chacatra, I should say. So that's interesting. He has wine named after his son. The name says it all, Principe Jacopo. Yeah, the Prince Jacopo. He's a lovely little fella, and Heydi will tell more about him, I'm sure. I think it's a big driving force behind a lot of things. That's a Metodo Ancestrale, a frizzante with Albarola grapes, Bosco and Vermentino. And then there is a Rosato based on Bonamico and Moscato grapes, about 8,000 bottles. And then there is also a Rosato frizzante Metodo Ancestrale with Bonamico and Moscato grapes as well. And then there is a red wine, U Negru, which is based on Canaiolo, 50%, and Bonamico, both grape varieties that you find more in Tuscany. But Bonamico in itself is rather rare as well. And then there's another one, Vin dai Vecchi Rosso, with the same grape varieties, but also the skins of the Chacatra inside. So that's a whole lot. And now I think it's time to start asking some questions to Heydi. So Heydi, unmute yourself and we'll get ready to dive in.
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, that was a long introduction. I had many questions lined up for you. Can you tell us something, maybe to start off first with the grape varieties? How did you rediscover all these old grape varieties that were lost and rare?
My job starting, that you say 29 years ago. I'm very young. For me is a play. For the first time, I rebuild a dry wall. Nothing people that teach me, but I only see old people near me that work and rebuild the wall. So after I started to take the land around the only 3 terraces of my family in my land, because I started with 800 square meter. And so I started to study because I'm very passionate of the history of my land. Cinque Terre have a grape from 2,000 years ago, so it's a very long history, one of the more old part in Italy that produce wine. And so we find because I work before, when I started to make wine, I work 10 years for the national park, and for the national park we find an old diary where a priest of 2 centuries before described 24 different kind of grape only local in Cinque Terre. And so I started to speak with all the old men in all the village of the Cinque Terre, and we go to find when some people say me that I have a strange grape, I have another kind of grape that is similar Vermentino, but is not, is another flavor, another parfum. So we started to make a study for 10 years. Fortunately, I have a friend that would work for the university in Pisa, and we started to take part of plant, and we study the part of plant. It's a very beautiful study for me, because I'm not studying the university for make wine. So for me, I started to know all from this research, and it's very beautiful because we find some type of grape that is from other family, but after many years in the Cinque Terre with our type of land, our climate, they change the plant, they change the flavor, they change the parfum in the wine. And so we find 19 different type of grape, and we are the only one that today we have a big quantity of grape, and we have one grape that not have name, because it's not never people know this plant. I say that is my gold in my land, this one.
Italian Wine Podcast, brought to you by Mama Jumbo Shrimp.
Okay, interesting. The pot of gold, or the grape of gold. I wanted to get into some more, like you have 80% of Bosco in your Cinque Terre DOC. How come you have such a high percentage?
Yes, because I started to make wine in 2004. 2004, I have only my land near the sea. Usually, the land near the sea is the best for make the grape, for plant the grape for the Chaquetra, and for having a good quality of grape. And usually in the grape near the sea, the people plant Bosco, because Bosco is a very delicate grape. It's a grape that is starting from Genoa. We have the first notice in Genoa, and all the people finish to work because it's more delicate. It's very delicate. But in Cinque Terre find a good agriculture, because it's an agriculture where the men have to stay every day in the land and stop in Cinque Terre. And in my land, from my first year, I started to plant only Bosco, because for me, Bosco is the really characteristic grape of the Cinque Terre. Now we find the white Rossese, that is another very interesting grape, but I maintain the big percentage in Bosco because I have inside many characteristics. I try to make other wine from Albarola, Ugianco, from other kind, but for me the Bosco maintain the really Cinque Terre. When people say me for me which wine is really of the Cinque Terre, I say the Cinque Terre DOP, because it's the really you find the salted part. If you walk around our land, you find many parfum, many flavor that you find around our land. And so I prefer maintain for the Cinque Terre, for the Chaquetra, a big percentage in Bosco grape.
And you also made a Chaquetra in amphora since several years, I think since 2015. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I like to try because I have an idea. Because in the 2008, the research, the people that make the research into the sea, and they find an old ship that down the sea that is full of amphora from the time of the Roman Empire, They make a study and they find two amphora that with the DNA arrive from the Cinque Terre. So from this time, I have the idea to work with the amphora. But for the Chaquetra, it's not simple because you know that Chaquetra is very precious. And if you lost 800 bottles of Chaquetra it's terrible for the economy of the farm. So I spend more time. I study before I try many wine in amphora and the same wine in still or in wood. And then I decide we start in the 2015. We're starting with 3 different amphora of 3 different material. 2 is terracotta, but it's 2 different cooking. So one have more oxygen exchange, one less. And then we use the ceramical amphora. And we maintain for 3 years the same wine inside these 3 amphora. And we take all the sensation that we find when we test the wine from every different jar. And we decide to have 2. For the years that is more difficult, we use terracotta. For the year that is more simple, we use ceramic. But every year we make one Chaquetra from the jar.
Can you explain the difference in taste or structure between the 2?
Yes. Usually terracotta is good, very good, when you have not balanced wine. When you have not balanced wine, not balanced Chaquetra want more time for arrive a good balance. You think that you have to drink Chaquetra for arrive to the top of the Chaquetra, you have to wait 10 years. But his minimum is 3 years before to put in the bottle for starting to have a good balance. Terracotta arrive more fast because have a very strong oxygen exchange that balance in few time the wine. But there is some years, similar to 2021 now, I think, that is very dry here. So the Chaquetra arrive to a good balance in nature. And if you use terracotta, it's possible that you starting to oxidation the wine before. And so I prefer use the ceramic. Ceramic have the 3% of the oxygen exchange than the normally terracotta. And so is for stop more the life of the Chaquetra. I like introduce one new Chaquetra now because it's not arrived now. We arrive in the end of the year. We try to put the bottle of the Chaquetra in the 52 meter down the sea. We make the first study of this bottle and we have a special result. And from November, we have for the market our first Chaquetra that is stay for 6 months down 52 meter down the sea. And is a very special result.
I can't wait to try it. Coming. Maybe at the Wine Revolution in November, you will have it ready then?
I hope to have because come up in October and stay for 1 month, we see to sleep because for 1 month we don't touch this wine. And after we have a panel of test wine with different chefs and different sommelier. And after we can start to sell. And I think that I arrive with the first bottle in Wine Revolution, yes.
Okay, perfect. If not, I have to be on the panel, of course, but we'll talk about that another time. What would you say would be your biggest challenges in the way you work and where you work?
For me, it's normal, this type of work. I'm born here. For me, the Cinque Terre is my home. I know that for another people that come here, it's terrible work here. It's terrible only walk, not work, walk. But for me, it's normally. And for me, it's important this type of agriculture because maintain the territory, maintain the land around the village. And it's important to maintain this type of work. Really is difficult to change the method of work because it's very steep. The dry wall is very high, so it's impossible to change the method of work. It's possible have the monorail for transport the material up and down. And now in the last year, we stay to try the drone, forgive the sulfur by the drone and not in the shoulder. But usually around the heroical viticulture, we don't have many new mechanical methods. So we have to maintain the old method. But I think that is really the only method for maintaining the land, because I see many people that change the method of work in the place similar me, and they destroy the characteristic of the wine and of the land.
About the dry stone walls, can you explain a little bit more how you maintain them and what it involves?
Dry wall is really important because during the century, the people that live here study a method that is perfect for me, because it's the method for use some steep place that without dry stone walls, we can't use our land because it's more. They use a method that is perfect for maintain the water when it rain and for don't go down, because the dry wall that you see in front is not the only one. Behind there is another one, and behind the two there is a more small rock for the water, for the rain. The rain go down, and by the rock arrive to the valley. From the valley arrive to the river. From the river go to the sea. The problem is that the people from here don't think that in the future this method can stop, because it is all a system for maintaining all the territory. We think that only to arrive to the 1960, Cinque Terre had 1,200 hectares of grape. Today we have only 100. And the people of the past don't think this one. This one is the problem of today, because in the past they prefer have land in many different places, because if in a year you have a problem in a place, you can make wine from the other place. Today, for don't have more problem from up, from down, of landslide, of collapsed, we have to concentrate the land. And this one is only the really change than the past. My grandmother that finished work in the land in the 1970 have a land 21 different places around Rio Maggiore. Today we have to concentrate. This one is the problem, because for having my farm, my bigger land of 3 hectares, I have to include 72 different property. Is a job only this one. But why? Because if you concentrate, you restore a big part of territory. Usually I try to arrive near the rock. In this method, when rain, all the rain go very fast to the sea and without problem for the land. If you walk and you have up you or down you part of land that is not worked, after many years starting to collapse in your land and destroy your vineyard, destroy your land, and after some time all the mountain go down. We see during the 2011 when a big rain destroyed 2 villages in Monterosso and Vernazza. But for me, is the time that the people have to know our work is very important, because Vernazza and Monterosso, the place that is cultivated, stay well. The other place collapsed down to the village. So it's important the dry walls for maintain in life our village.
Yes, okay. Thank you for explaining that, because I think it's really important for people to understand. So if you if people visit Monterosso and they go to the train station, you can see the photographs, right, of what happened there. It's really impressive. Another question: which wines are you most proud of and why? Difficult question maybe, but...
No, my bigger product is around the Cinque Terre DOP, because it's the really wine I study from the first year that I make wine for make a really important wine. And so I try to produce every year more bottle for our market. And is for me is the really imaging of the Cinque Terre wine around Italy, around the world, because I sell 30% of my production around the world. And after the Chaquetra, because Chaquetra is really important. It's a wine that has an history. You find the documents of a Chaquetra that have 1,000 years age. So it's important for maintain the territory. The other wine for me is important, but it's important not only for try that Cinque Terre is very rich region, is a very rich land, and you can make many different kind of wine, because all the time when I make a new wine, many people say me, but you produce nothing, and but you have 12, 14 different type of label, is more. And I say, no, it is not more, because it's really important for explain what have a rich place, our rich place, because the different kind of grape, different type of work is made a very different kind of wine. And this one is very important because usually if you go in many regions, you find for many kilometers the same grape. In Cinque Terre, the same producer, me, I produce 14 different type of wine some years, and it's all many different, because it's the grape that is many different, and is not popular. I know that Bosco, Albarola, White Rossese out of Cinque Terre is not popular, but it's a really beautiful type of grape that today the people is normal that speak of Chardonnay, Sauvignon, take the same parfum, the same flavor. This one is all different parfum and different flavor, but from one part of land to the other part is 500 meters. In 500 meters, Cinque Terre change climate, change land, change sun exposition, and change the wine. And this one is the beautiful of this land.
Why is it so important for you to revive the old traditions of the area? And can you give some examples of that?
Because I think that if you want to have your market, if you want to have success in this place, is important, because really Cinque Terre is a unique place. But there is many people, you think that today the problem of the Cinque Terre is not the people that want to make wine, but the people that make wine for job. Because today we are only in two that we live only by wine. Other farm is the secondary job, is job in free time, and is not good for this, for the territory. I maintain, I make from the first time the tradition of the place, because it's really important maintain the tradition, maintain the identity of a place. And the first one that every year we starting our harvest is the harvest by boat. The harvest by boat is a really beautiful tradition that from the 1970 the people don't make, because the land near the sea is the first one that is not worked, and after arrived the monorail. But you think to arrive to the 1970, all the people that have the grape near the sea go down and arrive in the village by boat, by the small boat that we have here. It's very impressive work. It's very impressive. All the people can see the videos that is in the YouTube during 1 minute by the harvest by boat. First time that I see this video, I cry, because it's very impressive. And I think that is really different from other place, this type of tradition. And it's important for me maintain and transmit the traditions. For this reason, I teach to the people that arrive from Africa. I teach to the child of the village, because it's very important not only take for me, because I'm only one, but for transmit this tradition to the other people. And in the future, we can see other people that make my job.
Yes, I get that. So that also involves the Vino Migrante, which you started recently, right? Can you tell a little bit more about that?
Yes. This one is a project. I started to think this project in the 2015, but we starting only end of the 2019, because we have many problems here. First problem, we have to rebuild all the land that was cultivated in the past. We have to find people that want to work here, because it's really difficult to find people that want to work here because it's more strong than another place. I started to collaborate with the foundation in La Spezia, Cari Spezia Foundation, and with the Caritas, a similar Red Cross, from the 2015, where I teach two different courses for rebuild the dry wall stones, or for explain the method for working the vineyards. But I see that it's not a good 2 months of course for teach a job. So I write directly this project. It's called the Sciachetrà del Migrante. We take 1.5 hectares together up Rio Maggiore, all together between two valleys. So is a mountain that is not work. And so we start in this project with 4 boys. Every morning I teach to these boys. I explain the method for clear the land. I explain the method for build the wall. We plant new vineyards. And from this year, we starting to make the first time the Sciachetrà, the really Sciachetrà, the Migrante. And from when it is ready, we sell this Sciachetrà. And the money is for the school, for having new students. Because in the time that they make the course or in the time that I teach, they take some money every month. Because if you don't give money, they don't want work. And so it's important for me because we're starting to have new people for working the land. Because in 2 years, we find 8 people the job around the farm in the Cinque Terre. In the same time, we clear land around the village. That is very important because we rebuild the wall. We maintain the land around the village. That is more important. In the end, we produce a wine that is about the Sciachetrà. Altogether, we produce about 10,000 bottles of Sciachetrà in all the Cinque Terre. So it's very important to maintain this tradition of a wine that have many people like to test this wine and find that is very special. And so this one is one of the projects more important that I made from the last 10 years, but is really important for all the territory for me.
Thank you. You are one of the very few producers that makes what we call natural wines in the Cinque Terre. Do you have an idea why? And do you think others should do the same? Or what's your idea about that?
For me, is from the first time I decided to don't use nothing of chemical. Before is for respect for me. Because I started to work in the land that I don't think to make the wine in the first time. But I have to maintain the grape. But if you use some of chemical, you take directly before, because I work every day in the land, and if I use something that is not good, I take for first. And then the respect for the people that eat or drink the wine, and after is 15 years that inside my grape I have the bees. And the bees is very important for all the nature. And so is my first decision that when I started to work in the land is not use nothing of chemical, work only in the old method. So we make a compost, we make a different type of work every year in different place for having new land every time. And when you open my land, you find many, many animals inside. I know that this method is very strong, and sometimes some people that is not interesting to the nature for spend less money decide to use the chemical. Chemical, you know that if you use herbicide, you destroy the herb for months. You know that if you use, in Italy we call sistemici, is the product that you give to the plant and enter inside the plant for 15 days. And so during the 15 days, if rain and sun is not a problem because you are covered, but after you destroy the nature around. And so it's very important for me maintain the ambient around us. And I think that in the last year we have a new generation because now I have 45 years, so it's not too young than before. And I think that there is a new generation. In the new generation now there is other 3 producer that's starting to make the same method, similar me. Other people like to use herbicide, but I think that in the future is the clear agriculture. I hope that the national park take the decision to stop many products inside the national park. But I think that really the future is the clear agriculture, because I see in the last year many importers, many producers, many shops, many restaurants want agriculture clear inside the wine. And for me, it's the future of the Cinque Terre, because it's really a respect for the people that work in the land. If you work in the land, you use herbicide, you use pesticide, you are stupid, because you are not in the same in another part of Italy, of Europe, where you are in the car and you don't inspire nothing. You are in the land, you give the product by hand and you give directly. So is the only method for stay well. You don't use nothing of chemical for me.
I obviously agree with you. Does it maybe also help you with the expression of the terroir, making wine in this way?
Yes, when I started to make wine, the other decision that I take that is not popular, but is the base for the natural wine, is don't use yeast, because if you want to give the really terroir, so for me, terroir is when you find parfum, you find flavor that you can find when you walk around my land. If you go in my land in the morning early, you take some parfum from aromatic plant, from Mediterranean plant, from the land when yesterday is rain. And if you go this morning in the land, you find a parfum that is special, is similar barns, similar the volcanic rock, because our rock is arenaria. Arenaria is an old volcanic rock. And you find this parfum in the land, in the wine. And after you find the salted part, because the salt you find everywhere in my land. You find inside the grape, you find inside the land, you find between the rock of the dry wall. This one for me is the terroir. And the terroir, if you give terroir in the wine, forgive the terroir in the wine, you have to don't use nothing of other than the grape. For this one, I don't use from the first time, and I don't use the yeast. I don't filter my wine. I don't give nothing for clear. And every year we try to use half sulfite, and every year we reduce. And now we arrive to make in a normally year. We have only one wine that we use some sulfite inside, because I see that when you use sulfite, you change some the wine. And so I want that the wine, when I explain of my wine, I prefer starting to explain the season, the climate of the season, and after we arrive to explain my wine. This one for me is the terroir.
Can you give us an idea how much extra costs you have in time, etc., due to the difficulty of the territory to produce your wines?
Yes. There is a study from the University of Genoa that take three different regions. Take the Lombardia, take the Piemonte, and take Ligurian. And they say that Cinque Terre, the cost for producer one bottle of wine is 8 times than a normally region, same Piemonte or Ligurian, and the 3 times more than another place in Ligurian territory. Because I say before, the problem is that here is impossible to use machine. You have to spend about 1,250 hours for hectare in a year. So is the same that in Cinque Terre, one person can maintain on maximum 1 hectare of grape, or 1 hectare of territory. And it's really because I'm 5 hectares and I have 2 people that work every day for me, and 2 people for the season. And then we have people that make the invoice when I have to work in another place. So it's a really hard work. And this one is the problem for the future, because there is people that like maintain the land, but not spend money for other people that work. It's really difficult to think that for expanding the agriculture here.
We didn't talk about your son, Jacopo, but I know you have him involved, even though he's really small, and you perhaps hope that he will take over one day. How is that progressing?
Jacopo is interesting, really. It's him that made the Shagedra with his feet from many years, because the tradition wants that is a child that pressed the Shagedra by foot. So from the 2015, I use my son. And these years, 2023, we decided that I have to explain the first regulations of the wine. So we decided that we made a small wood barrel of wine, where we explain the method of, we explain the yeast of the skin, we explain the work, we explain the job for made the wine. And from this year, he produced his first wine. And every year we give some more of for made the wine.
Wow, that's great. That promises well for the future.
I think that in 1 month we enter in harvest. I think before, and I think that in my page in Instagram you can see all the photos of him that we decided that we make this wine, and we explain with a signature, which is the yeast in the skin. So he presses, starting the fermentation. So the yeast produce the alcohol. So every evening we see the level of the alcohol. This one is the first part that he have to know. But for me, is in the future he can take the far.
Okay, I think we have to stop here. Thank you so much, Heydi. It was really a pleasure to listen to your explanations. Grazie mille e ci vediamo presto laggiù in Liguria.
Certo, ti aspetto. I await you, and I hope that all the people that listen this podcast can come to see the Cinque Terre, because it's a very interesting place.
You must, people, you must, but not in summertime. It's too crowded. Contact me if you want to go, and I'll help you out.
All right. Thank you so much, Heydi and Josje, for this wonderful interview. We are looking forward for Jacopo to take over at some point in the next years to come. So if he's below 30, we can interview him for the next generation. So why not? So before I end and I close the room, I just want to say we are on a holiday break in the next 2 weeks, but we will be back on August 24 for another Clubhouse at 5 o'clock. So it's coming from Asia. Fiona Chin will be interviewing Viberti. So that's up next for this August. Okay, so ciao everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Listen to the Italian Wine Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We're on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Himalaya FM, and more. Don't forget to subscribe and rate the show. If you enjoy listening, please consider donating through ItalianWinePodcast.com. Any amount helps cover equipment, production, and publication costs. Until next time, cin cin.